With us for our bi-monthly catch-up is Christina Brady from Black Tower Financial Management. Since we last spoke, the news that Spain now wants to completely eliminate the Golden Visa scheme, which gives residency to wealthy foreigners, not just the housing £500,000 Spanish home, but all the other options as well, Christina.
The socialist government has decided it wanted to scrap all golden visas. So before, you could either buy a property or you had investment opportunities. You could put 1 million in shares in a Spanish company, you could place 2 million in government bonds, or 1 million in a Spanish bank. And what that meant was you then had your golden visa. And the good thing about the golden visa is it meant you could work in Spain. And if you didn't want to work, you could live in Spain, but you didn't have to become tax resident. So what they've done is they've got rid of the only visa that you could possibly have to live in Spain where you didn't become a tax resident. If you take out a non-lucrative visa, a nomad visa, any of the others, you are become a tax resident in Spain. So what they've done is they've said, right, we're going to get rid of this. And before they tried to pass it through Parliament, it didn't get passed. But they think they found a loophole. Oh, God, how can they find these loopholes? But anyway, they think they found a loophole, which means they can pass this through. But they haven't said what they are going to do to existing golden visa holders.
That was going to be my next question.
Because there are apparently about 15,000 of those. Most of them were Russian, Chinese, Iranian, but there were Americans, UK. If you obviously lived outside the EU, you needed to apply for a visa. And they haven't said in any way, shape or form what they are going to do. And people are still processing golden visas.
Yeah, they're still happening,
you go to someone.
Going through quite quickly as well at the moment.
Yes, they're going through very quickly. But no one knows what's going to happen. They can't just say, right, your golden visa, when it runs out in 5 years, that's it, you've got to get out of the country, because they fulfilled all the criteria at the time when they applied to live here. They might say, you can stay, but as long as when your golden visa runs out, you become a tax resident.
After 5 years. I suppose there can be legislation that could go through on that count, I would imagine, in the current sort of, the way that the Spanish Parliament is, because it's everybody having to do a deal with everybody else to get anything through.
It's like France. It's a complete mess.
What was I going to ask about this? There was something else to do with oh, yes, I know what it was. Since they said they were going to scrap the golden visa, nothing's happened for ages. So how soon will something happen?
It through as law, but it wasn't. They rejected it. So they tried to pass it through the House, but it was rejected. So this time, that's why they're saying that they found a loophole, because they were worried this was going to be rejected again. So we will have to see if they have actually, found a loophole, and it does withstand scrutiny. And as you said, if other people back it, because they haven't got a majority, they are reliant on smaller parties to back them. And I think it's wrong. I think scrapping the golden visa is wrong. I think if they should keep it, but they should say you become a tax resident in Spain. It doesn't give you the freedom not to be a tax resident. I think maybe the property, yes, but I think if you're investing in a Spanish company or you're investing in government bonds, that is good for Spain. So why scrap something that is fundamentally good for the economy of your country?
Is it all part of those politics that we've been talking about? And, some people wanting something. Could well be. All right, well, we'll keep an eye on it. And, as developments develop, we'll talk about it. Now, about buy-to-let, because there have been some concerning headlines about buy-to-let in Britain this week. The market shrunk. The Telegraph even said the buy-to-let market is dead.
Yep, they are calling it the death of the buy-to-let market. And that is despite retail yields being at their highest on record across most of the country. Investors are abandoning the sector. They're literally running for the hills. And this is due to higher mortgage rates is a small fraction. The uncertainty about what Labour is going to do with landlord rights. It's got a reform bill in place, and it's giving tenants too much power. So landlords don't like this. It's similar to Spain. If you have a long-term renter, God forbid you want them to move out. It's near nigh impossible.
Well, it depends on the situation, but you know, if it's within a family, it's much easier than perhaps larger companies trying to move people out. But however, they're still doing it. They're still happening. Yeah,
there's so much red tape now, and there's a lack of tax relief, which obviously George Osborne got back. And so what we've seen is, you know, the market for people buying property, to buy rental property, it took up 17% of the market. That has shrunk to 8% of the market. So that is a huge decrease in people buying properties buy to let. And most of the bigger firms, you've seen some of the bigger companies, they are offloading their properties
that's the worry.
At a phenomenal rate. And I think that's bad. But in a way, it's good, because if you think how much it costs to rent a property in the UK, most people, if they had to get a mortgage on that property, it would actually be less, even with the higher rates, than paying the rent. And that's what annoys me. There was someone on Facebook or TikTok saying the bank thinks I can pay $2,500 a month on rent, yet it won't let me get a mortgage where I'd only have to pay $1,900.
And you've got the crazy situation where UK mortgage rates have now pushed about 320,000 adults into poverty because they've been soaring. But actually, there are fixed-rate mortgages below 4% back on sale
there
in
are
Britain.
Still, but the trouble is, if you've already got a mortgage, you can't just pull out of it to take one of these. Usually you are fixed for a year or 3 or 5 years. So when rates initially went up, if you came to the end of your 3-year, 1-year term, the bank then came to you and said, right, the new rate is 6%, 7% or whatever. At the time, there weren't the better deals. And if you try and get out of it, you have to pay a penalty, which then negates going into a lower rate mortgage. So the banks have got it all sewn up. So that is only really good if you're coming up to the time when you need to renew your mortgage deal, or if you're buying, you know, a first-time buyer, or you need a mortgage for a new property. If you've got an existing mortgage, it's very, very difficult. The banks have it sewn up, and I feel very, very sorry for people. And as far as interest rates go, I know the bank.
I was going to say, next week, the Good Money says that there will be the first cut in 4 years in Britain.
No, I don't. I'm not sure, unless Labour just want to do 0.25. But I would say if they do, that will be the only rate rise we see before 2025.
Well, it's a 15-year high still, isn't it? 5.25% at the moment.
It is.
14 times it's gone up.
And the EU is not going to reduce rates anymore with the figures that are coming out. And the US may reduce rates, but if they reduce them now, it's going to be seen as them leaning towards the Democrats with the election coming up so soon. If they were going to reduce rates, they needed to have done it sort of May, June time. But they may still do it, but it's only going to be a small cut. The economic data coming out of everywhere is not solid. It could change at any time, as we've seen. So it's very, very difficult. I think people just haven't got mortgages. They've got debt. You know, people have credit cards. The rates on that is astronomical. If they don't pay it off every month, they've got HP. In UK, most new cars are sold on HP. And if that bubble bursts, oh my God, God help us. So there are things out there to be very, very worried about. But I think the buy-to-let, I think a lot of people, and this is normal individuals, have used that as their pension. They've invested in other properties and let them out, and seen that as a way of financing their retirement. With everything that's coming up, it looks like that bubble is going to burst, and people are going to be pulling out of this market in a big, big way.
In recent times, we've talked about Revolut, Christina. It's now finally got that UK banking licence. Been waiting for 3 years. So are we all okay with the fact that we trust it and it's safe enough for us to start using? I know a lot of people do already.
I told people to use it anyway. It applied 3 years ago. It didn't get the licence because it hadn't filed its accounts properly, which again is very worrying, but I'm not sure if any bank actually files its accounts properly. And I know the EU doesn't. So it has got its UK banking licence. It's still restricting, I think, the amount you can put into 50,000 at the moment until it gets more stable, because obviously it's got lots of red tape to go through and lots of paperwork. And then once it does, you will have the same guarantees on your Revolut account, if it's in the UK, that you do for a normal bank account.
OK, thanks very much for that. And what are we going to do with our money in these times then? We know that you can't get onto the Department for Work and Pensions because it's about 753 years to wait for a reply. That's collectively, of course, people trying to get through to the Department of Work and Pensions. And people are worried about, the retirement crisis. A number of people haven't been saving enough for their retirement.
Can I quickly say something about
Sure.
UK state pensions? If you're 80... and you've just become 80, you should have received a letter saying that you need to prove you're still alive. Now, I've sent an email to all my clients telling them the links, and the British ambassador was worried because so many Brits living in Spain haven't received the information from the UK or haven't replied to it. And if they don't get proof of life, they will stop paying your state pension. This is if you're 80 or over, okay? If you're just coming up to 80, you're here next year. It's when you reach your 80th birthday. So I sent an email out to all my clients. I've had quite a few of them come back and said, oh, thank you for this. We've been in touch. There's a year backlog or something.
Right.
But anyway, just to warn people, if you have received something and you didn't reply to it, please read it again. And if you need proof of life, all you need to do is get someone to certify your passport and sign a form to say that they witness that you're still alive. So that's something
somebody
on pensions,
it can't be anybody, can it? It's got to
no,
be
it can't. It has to be someone, an accountant, a lawyer, financial advisors can do it, notaries can do it. So it does give you a list of who's acceptable to sign that passport, just to warn people. If your pension does stop and you are over 80 or you have just become 80, maybe you didn't reply to this form and give proof of life. So I wouldn't panic, just get in touch with them. As I said, wait for 5 days on the phone before they come back to you or they answer. But that's something to be aware of. OK, if anybody needs some financial help or some wealth management, then how do they get in touch, Christina? Right, they can email info@blacktowerfm.com, put for the attention of Christina Brady, and it will come through to me. Remember, we don't just cover Spain, we cover most of the countries in Europe, the UK, US. We've got an office in Australia and one in Dubai. So if you're anywhere and you need advice, please get in touch.